Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of 50 Conversations with 50 Strangers. I've been trying to branch out a little bit and talk to some people that don't actually feel and think and believe like me, not because I want to talk to them or don't want to talk to them, just because I'm interested to see if this idea that I have of when we really just listen to another person and really respect another person's point of view and acknowledge and validate that that's what they're trying to say and want to say, and that they feel loved and accepted enough to share that in this room, what would happen? Because we live in a world where everybody's fighting to be heard and everybody's screaming over other people, everybody's answering questions before they're even asked, everybody's not listening, everybody's talking a lot more than they're listening. So the experiment of this room is it possible for us to have, no matter what we believe, conversation together that doesn't get into yelling and screaming? So today, I have someone that I have no idea who he is. His name is Alex Dennis. That much I do know. He has some accent to his voice. I don't know where it's from. He told me that he is scheduled to speak with me this evening. And for me, it's morning, so I don't even know where he's from or what our time zones are like. And we're going to find all that out. Alex, welcome to 50 Conversations. How are you today?
Thank you for having me, Danny. Yeah, I'm good. I'm, as I say, sweaty because I've just taken my dogs out, which you can see in the background.
There, your dog looks like she or he? She?
That's a he.
That's a he.
That's Gizmo. He's a Saluki cross.
Oh wow!
All things.
Yeah. He looks like he is just sitting there ruling the kingdom.
He likes to think he does. Yeah, very much.
So, Alex, how are you? You know, in this time that we're living in, where many of us are isolated, locked up. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of looking at some of the things that we've always held to be true. There are race protests going on. There's Me Too movements happening. There's a pandemic that's keeping us. I mean, it's crazy times. How are you doing in the craziness of these times?
It's a big question. I think overall I'm doing okay. You know, I'm trying to sort of approach every day as though, like, you've just got to kind of find your own way to process what's happening and get through it. So, especially at the start of this, I've suffered with mental health problems before, and at the start of this, I did suffer. I wouldn't say as bad as I have done previously, but yeah, I definitely suffered to a certain extent. And I think finding moments during the day that you make sure you step away from, you know, whatever it is you're doing, whether it's work or whether it's, you know, relationships with other people, and just make sure you take some time to make sure that you're okay. I think that's important.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you something. Feel free not to answer.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about the mental health issues that you were dealing with, that you're dealing with, and what COVID brought to the forefront.
Sure. Depression was the main thing that I was suffering with. And it's funny because depression is one of those things that some people can be like, yes, this is the reason for my depression. You know, this is, you know, whether a loss of a loved one or, you know, your financial status changes. And for other people like myself, it's just, I'm depressed now, I guess. That's it. That's just a part of my biology. That's part of my brain chemistry. That's just who I am now. Yeah, and I suffered with it for a while. I took antidepressants for a little while. I don't know. I think other people will probably agree with me on this, but taking certain antidepressants can be very strange because when you're depressed, you just feel down all the time. Like nothing's worth doing. There's no point getting out of bed. There's no, you know, I don't know, why bother eating lunch? Like, what's that going to accomplish? And the antidepressants that I took, instead of making me feel down, they just made me feel nothing.
Wow.
Which is a very surreal experience to wake up and just be like, huh, cool, I don't feel anything, like at all. I just feel just blank.
So, first of all, thank you for, in the first 2 minutes of coming into this room, being so honest and open and vulnerable and raw. What a beautiful human being you are to be able to do that with an imperfect stranger like myself. We never even knew each other existed
I,
before yesterday when you sent me a note saying I'll game to do this, and you're here, you
I,
are today, right? So
I think that was about 4 hours ago for me, but
yes,
yeah.
exactly, right. So to be able to have such a real, honest conversation with someone that quickly is beautiful, and I really want to, acknowledge that and thank you for that.
Yeah, no, one of the things that I've realized about my mental health and my depression is that being matter of fact about it can make it easier for me. So my fiance, when I'm having a bad day, when I know that my brain chemistry just isn't playing today, uh, just telling her that can make me feel better.
Yeah,
Just knowing that somebody else is aware of my mental state can have a big impact, and I think that is one of the biggest tools that people who suffer from mental health should have in their toolbox. Is just
someone.
being able to say, today I'm not okay.
Yeah,
And maybe they know the steps, maybe they don't know the steps to feel better. But just being able to say that and have someone go, okay, what can I do anything?
yeah,
That's important.
yeah. I'd be interested in your thoughts on this because it's really honest, and um, sometimes I don't even think people have to say, "Can I do anything?" Sometimes I think that just being holding the space for someone to say what they're feeling and just letting them feel loved and accepted for feeling that no matter what, listened to and heard,
Yeah.
without trying to fix them or change them or help them or do any of those things. I mean, we're such by nature, we're such a society who wants to come in and say, okay, I can help you. What can I do?
Yeah,
How do
I'm
I
a
get,
problem solver.
right? We're all problem solvers. And so, um, but just sometimes having someone that just says, wow, okay, thanks for sharing that with me or telling that to me,
Yeah.
is maybe enough. I know I watch that and it happen in this room sometimes.
Yeah.
That there's no need to fix people or change people or help them or govern them or lead them, or there's just all people want sometimes is to be heard.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's it's important to be. Everybody should have a platform to be able to say how they're feeling, and for those around them to listen. And if the people around you aren't listening, then it's important to try and find someone that does want to listen.
Yeah, I love that. Tell me what it feels like to feel nothing.
It's it's almost like having an out of body experience. It's feeling numbness is the wrong word because you can feel numbness after shock or loss or something like that. Those emotions are coming, but feeling nothing it's almost impossible to explain without experiencing it because there's a wonderful web comic from a few years ago called no, I can't remember it off the top of my head actually.
Okay.
But it's very crudely drawn. It's very funny, and it's about the adventures in depression. And a lot of people have sort of agreed with this because you go from being down, and then as you start to recover from depression, especially, your emotions start to return to normal, but they don't always come back in any logical or kind of sequential order.
Yeah.
So what I found was I went from being down, and then as I came off the antidepressants because I was feeling better, I just felt angry,
Hmm.
just for no reason, just all the time.
Yeah.
And then I went from feeling angry to feeling, various other emotions in sort of stages as I got better. But yeah, my emotions arrived back, but not all together. And you know, there wasn't a bus where they all got off. It was just sort of like a meteor of, oh, guess what? Now you're, instead of feeling nothing, now you're just really angry. There you go.
Wow.
How's that?
Wow. And then there was more. Was there more medication to take for being angry, or did what happened when you felt that?
No, I don't. It's a while ago now, but I sort of I think I was just more pleased that I had something back, that I was
You
feeling
felt something.
something,
Yeah, yeah,
rather than feeling down all the time, and rather than feeling and nothing. It's like an emotion was quite nice to have, and
yeah,
it was through sort of my friends and loved ones that yeah, I was able to sort of get back to the sort of reasonable stability of mental health that I now enjoy.
yeah. My wife, her work is to help people feel their heart,
Hmm.
and she says people's hearts are just when she does energy alignments, so she actually can go in and see what's blocking the heart from feeling, and sort of open up some of those places. And what she says is when she goes into those situations, it's amazing to her how much the heart is just shut down, and how much how much people just don't feel.
Yeah,
And so, and they're not clinically depressed, not feeling. They just are. Maybe they are, but they're walking around functioning in life,
yeah,
but just not operating from this place of their heart at all because they're in so much pain or suffering or
mm.
something. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, big time. Um, I think I think people do it because there's an expectation nowadays to just sort of be okay, to just be get on with it, suck it up. Stuff has to get done regardless of how you feel. So you know, crack on.
Yeah,
And I don't think that's right. I
yeah,
think I think that people should be able to take their time to whether it's grieve or whether it's to take the time to experience those emotions because we shouldn't shy away from painful emotions. We should examine them and process them and experience them because otherwise it leads to long-term psychological problems.
So, what do you actually feel would happen if people were given the space or gave themselves even the space to sit with some of those things and work them through rather than just tuck them away in a place where they never get looked at?
I think we'd be able to regain an awful lot of the empathy that we've lost as a species.
No.
I think, as you rightly said, there's a lot of people sort of shouting to be heard and trying to get their opinions across, and social media, for whether you agree with it or disagree with it or whatever, gives people a platform to do that, but behind a screen of not having any consequences to the words that they say. Whereas sitting talking like this, even to a certain extent, and talking face to face, has you connect with people on a different
Yeah.
in a different way, and I think because of it's twofold. So because we're more separated as a species now, we are more what's the word I'm looking for? More likely to rally against someone's ideas initially, rather than taking the time to understand the context of why they feel those ideas. But on the flip side, it gives us the ability to see different people's perspectives that we never would have seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a double edged sword, I suppose.
I think I can only say from my point of view how much I've enjoyed hearing different perspectives as
Yeah.
people come into this room and just share the way they see the same world that I see.
Mm.
I was on a podcast that was called The Same 24 Hours.
Yeah.
And she said all of us have the same 24 hours, but what we do with them is what makes this podcast interesting. And I love that idea,
Yeah.
of how do we spend this time that we have, because all of us spend it differently, doing different things, believing certain things are right, certain things are. So I love that concept that she had. We had a great show, and it was really fun to be on.
That sounds good.
What makes you happy?
Um, the second weekend in July, every year in Great Britain, near the town of Cheltenham, there is a festival by the name of 2,000 Trees. And of the, when did it start? I think it started in 2006. So it's been running for, I'm not that good at maths. Where are we now?
14 years.
14 years. I've been to 12 of them.
Wow.
Yeah. And so some people get excited about Christmas, some people get excited about Halloween, some people get excited about New Year's, various religious holidays, whatever it might be. This is it for me.
And what is the Festival of Trees?
2,000 Trees it's a music festival, but it's all of my friends. We come together, and there's no signal out there. There's no internet. There's just it's funny to take like a day, 24 hours in. Everybody's put their phone down.
Yeah.
Everybody's just communicating, laughing, drinking, having fun, going to shared experiences, going to see bands. And it's that experience there.
Yeah.
That's what makes me happy.
And what kind of music is played? Is it all kinds of music, or is it a certain type of genre?
It's reasonably varied. I'd say it fits into sort of definitely the sort of rock-esque school, but there's a lot of acoustic stuff, there's a lot of pop stuff, there's DJs, there's some spoken word poetry, they do podcasts, there's all sorts of stuff. You can do yoga in the morning, you can go and get a lesson on sheep herding.
Wow. I love that. Next one I want to come to. I love that. My day was the day of Woodstock.
Yeah.
Which and it sounds like it's a version of Woodstock, but just and do lots of people come? Do 1,000 people come? 10,000? 100,000? 20?
It's probably about, I think it was 15,000 last year.
Wow.
So it's the sort of size of festival that's manageable. It's not vast like sort of Glastonbury or Reading or something.
Yes.
In the UK, those are sort of two of our biggest festivals. It sits nicely in the sort of small to medium category.
Yeah.
And there was a 2012 was the year that every festival goer sort of goes, oh boy, which is the year that it bucketed it down. And,
oh, wow.
2 hours after we were there, we were knee deep in mud.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that was an unfortunate year, but every year since then it's been very, very hot. But it was, due to COVID, cancelled this year, unfortunately. So, yeah.
What about that makes you so happy?
I think it's just a creation and forgetting of memories that takes place there. That every year we go, it's the sort of complete drop of all responsibility, And I think as humans we get so caught up in what we should and shouldn't do, and what we can and can't do because we've got not enough money, or we've got not enough time, or whatever it might be. But at 2,000 Trees, if you wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning and open a can of beer, like everyone's like, yeah, it's pretty standard, like but you can get a bacon roll at 3 o'clock in the morning and eat a pizza for breakfast, and nobody's judging you.
And how long does it go on for?
It goes Thursday to Saturday, so it's 3 days.
3 days. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. If money weren't important, what would you do?
Money weren't important, what would I do? I feel like I'd want to create something. And not for any reason, sort of, to be like, oh, my name's on a plaque, or, my name will go down in history. That I'm comfortable with the fact that once I'm dead, that's it. End of. But just for the joy of creating something, I think,
Yeah.
just to spend all of my time and just singularly focused on creating something, because I think as people we have a certain amount of energy that we can put into something, and I feel like with unlimited money, your energy becomes, you can do what you want with it.
Yeah.
Whereas at the moment we spend a lot of our time making money so that we can, not
Maybe,
die.
maybe one day do whatever we want, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
A- And if you were to dive into that creation, what would it look like?
I think it would be written, something written, probably a book of some sort,
Wow,
probably fantasy, I reckon.
fabulous.
Yeah.
Love it. Um, what's important to you?
It's important to me. I'd say, family, friends, that sort of stuff is super important to me. Nobody's asked me that question
Huh.
in I don't know how long.
Wow.
It's a difficult question to answer.
How come?
Probably because I don't feel like the things that are important to me are necessarily. I don't even know where I'm going with this. I just started talking. I don't know how to finish the
That's all right.
sentence.
That's all right.
I say the most important thing to me is the relationships that I have with the people around me. I've spent a lot of time making sure that the relationships with people that I have are the sort of relationships where if somebody phones you up at 2 a.m. and says, "I need your help,"
Yeah.
the other person goes, "Okay, where are you?" Rather than, "Can it wait?"
Yeah.
I'd like to think that my friends know that that's something that they can expect from me.
Wow. That's a beautiful thing. To be able to offer somebody that is really beautiful.
I have my best friend Hannah. Um, we have we have that agreement, and I had to I had to invoke that agreement. not not that long ago. It was the middle of last year. My now fiance had an accident, and she hurt herself quite badly. And I thought I was doing all right. And then I was in Tesco's. It's like a supermarket here, and I was buying whatever I was buying. But I was at the self checkout thing, and I was just like, I'm going to burst into tears. That's what I'm going to do right now. Yeah, I managed to hold it together to get into the car, and then yeah, just burst into tears and cried in Tesco's car park.
You're probably not alone in that as much as you think you probably are. You're
Yeah,
probably not the only one. Not maybe not Tesco's, but maybe some other store somewhere in some other
yeah.
town, in some other village, in some other country. Um, I suck at lightning rounds, but let's try it. Okay.
Okay, all right, let's go.
So knowing that I suck, you're not limited to time. The first ones are going to be pretty easy, but
All right,
then it's going to get a little bit more interesting. Um, I'm going to assume from what I see that I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask:
go on.
dog or cat person?
Dog,
Yeah.
comfortably.
Um, coffee or tea?
Neither. Water.
Neither. Wow. Okay. Interesting. Junk food or organic?
Oof. Junk food.
Okay. Conservative or liberal?
Liberal.
exercise or not exercise?
Do you know what? If my knee was better, it would be exercise.
Okay. What's wrong with your knee?
Well, in a word, it's fucked. Sorry if that's so
That's
swearing's not
okay.
allowed, but
That's all right. Everything's
um,
allowed.
I used to play an awful lot of ultimate frisbee. I
Oh
don't know if
wow.
you've
Oh yeah.
ever
No. Totally. Totally.
seen or played that, but yeah, I used to play an awful lot of that. Not at like a professional level, but I was reasonably good. I went to some sort of higher tournaments in the UK, and just over a period of time, just a combination of sort of injuries, not recovering properly, and not paying enough attention to myself. Um, yeah, just I so I've had to have surgery on my right knee. I had to
Wow.
have I tore my meniscus, which is like a bit that runs down the side of your patella and sort of stops it sliding, basically.
Yep.
So that tore, and I had to get that repaired. And I'm pretty sure the same thing's happened to my left knee as well. Um, yeah, and so if I can give any advice to anybody watching this, is if you hurt yourself or you think there's something wrong, go and see a doctor
Yeah.
because it won't get better
Yeah.
if you don't get a professional to look at it.
Yeah. Um, so do you believe our bodies speak to us? Do you believe that, they're trying to tell us something, and if we would listen? Because you just said an interesting statement, which is I want to agree with too, that if something's hurting your body, go to see a doctor, because if you don't see it, it's not going to get better on its own. And yet there have been a lot of people that I know that have gone to doctors and not gotten the results they're looking for, and have had spontaneous sort of healings by changing the way they think, or changing or listening to what their body's trying to say to them. Do you believe in any of that?
Um, yeah, I think to a certain extent, I think it's important to pay attention to your body, and if something doesn't, act right or doesn't respond the way that it always has, then it's best not to shrug that off.
Yeah.
Especially if it's something sort of like that's not obvious. I mean, if you've got a cut on your arm, you put a bandage on it or whatever. But
Right.
if you get a pain in your stomach or your chest or something like that, like don't delay.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's numerous cases of people who have been like near misses and not so lucky people that have just been like, yeah, just felt a bit ill, and then poop,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're dead. Yeah.
Um, Interesting. If we had more time, I would love to jump into that with you a little bit, because I think that there are as many people that have just actually listened. As like, our body doesn't all of a sudden just break itself.
No.
It hints to us along the way, right?
Sure.
Like, if we're sensitive to it, we go, "Oh boy, my knee doesn't feel like it used to feel, but that's all right. I'm just going to work my way through it. I'm going to push through it."
Yeah.
And at that point where it doesn't feel like we used to feel, maybe all we need is arrest it for a couple of days or do something. I used to run. You wouldn't know it by looking at me now, but I used to run 48 miles a week.
Wow.
And I used to bench press 345 pounds, and I was 165 pounds in weight. So, and then I injured myself,
Yeah.
and then the rapid decay of the body from that injury
Yeah.
was a lot, because I wasn't listening. I was just too egoic and thinking, I want to bench press more. I want to be, I want to get stronger. I want to be, and I didn't listen to my body saying, who really cares? You could probably stop at 225 and be happy. You don't need to do 345, and you probably could have run 30 miles a week and not 48 and still been healthy.
Yeah.
And I was running up and down ravines, so it was
But there's a certain there's a certain pleasure in seeing what you can accomplish, though.
absolutely,
There's,
absolutely.
and I'm not saying pushing your body to breaking point, but there's a pleasure in seeing what is possible.
So I think the place that I'm addressing right now, which I'd be interested in getting your feedback, because you said that really well, is the collision point between pressing yourself to see what you can actually accomplish. And that point where your body is saying to you, please don't go any further. You could go further, but you're going to hurt me. And
Mm.
hearing those two places, because sometimes you just want to go through it, and the body will be fine. And sometimes you go through it, and the body says, "Boy, like if you would have listened when I whispered, I wouldn't have needed to yell.
Yeah.
And if you listened when I yell, I wouldn't have needed to destroy."
Yeah.
Right? So, just being sensitive and hearing that's interesting to me. I told you I suck at that lightning round, right? Do you think you're an in the box person or an out of the box person?
Uh, do you have a context, or is it just answer how you feel?
Answer how you feel.
I think I'm probably out of the box. I reckon.
Okay. So, what context were you looking for that would have changed that question? The answer to that question.
So I think if you want to take me from a like work point of view, probably in the box. If you want to take me from a sort of hobbies and interests point of view, probably out of the box.
Gotcha.
You know, I'm British. I don't like tea. I don't like football. Beer's all right, I guess. You know, but from a work point of view, it goes back to mental health. Actually, and this is another thing that I think as people, as humans, we need to change, which is that I will work 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, or whatever it is. That's it. That is my stopping point. That is my limit, because I know that if I push myself beyond that regularly, my mental health starts to suffer.
Wow.
And I think too many people push themselves into work and quite often aren't rewarded for it
Yeah.
in the way that they expect to be rewarded for it.
Yeah.
Complain about that fact, and then will be depressed and anxious and worried about things because they've put all their energy into it. Cat dog.
And I thought what you were going to say is they do it, they don't get the reward that they think they're going to get, and then they just continue to do it, almost as
Yeah.
if they hope that if they continue to do it, they might get the reward later, but
Yeah.
they never get it.
No.
What would be worth it for you, if anything, to change that point of view? To not be an 8 to 4 or 9 to 5? Would you be different if you had your own company?
I think I would, probably, because I suppose it's about my company has decided that my labour is worth X amount.
Yeah.
So anything I put in beyond that, I'm doing for free.
I see.
But the company's not going to do anything for me
For free.
for free. They expect my labour for it.
Yeah.
So why am I putting my labour into something that I get nothing back? It doesn't. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
If you look at it like a mathematical equation, it's unbalanced.
Yeah. So, in some ways, it's a business transaction in your mind. If I can buy these goods for $10,
Yep.
and I can get the same goods for $10, but I just have to work harder to do it. Why would I do that? But there's a certain thing to the character of us as human beings that when we give, this is a lob over the net to you, that I want to know what you think. I think some of the reason why we work harder and do that more is, one, we don't know ourselves very well. And so it's an escape from sitting with ourselves and being uncomfortable with ourselves.
Yep.
And two, it's because what's been bred into us is this idea that if we serve and give and help others and do things to make life better, that somehow our lives will be made better. But it's a very mercantile belief system.
Yeah. See, because the first point I get, like, we're getting more, we're achieving more, we're helping people, fine. But with our sort of modern capitalist society, the only people we're helping by putting more effort in is the people at the top that are getting paid more.
Yeah.
If I generate more profit for my company, yeah, sure, they may reward me with a slightly higher bonus, but it's still a fraction of overall. If everybody puts in an extra 7 hours, 5 hours a week, everybody works an extra day, and the company earns X profit off that. Well, the people that put in all that work are still not going to see an extra, I don't know, whatever, 35. I'm not very good at maths, but an extra X percent. That X percent of extra effort they put in, they don't get that extra X, reward.
So what would happen if your boss or whoever
Yeah.
came to you and said, Alex, everybody else is working 10 hours over. Um, we're not going to give you any more money to do that. We're not giving them any more money to do that. But that commitment is what we're looking for. And if you don't do that, we're going to have to replace you with somebody else who will. Where you actually don't gain anymore, but you actually stand a loss. What would you do in that situation?
It's time to find a new job.
Okay, cool.
It is not worth me suffering mentally and physically, probably,
Love it.
to make money for somebody else. It's
want
just not worth it.
I want people that are listening to just hear the clarity and the certainty of which Alex said that. Because I think so many of us are put in that situation where we're told everybody else is doing this and we're not going to be able to give you any more. We would like to, but we can't. We're not going to be able to give you any more, but we can't have you here if you don't contribute like everybody else is doing. And it's maybe not said quite as clearly as that,
Sure.
but it's pretty much inferred.
Yeah.
And so many people in today's society just give more and more and more and lose other parts of their life without getting anything really back for it.
Yeah.
They get their job, but there's other jobs they could get.
Yeah, of course there is. There's this insane belief that the job market is, and I mean, don't get me wrong, in certain professions it probably is, and globally following COVID, it's the job market is probably going to contract and so forth. But there is always jobs.
Yeah.
There is always companies that are looking for people, and I think we need to stop thinking about that like we have to sell ourselves to the company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we shouldn't. A company should look after you as much as you provide profit for them. And this is the model that we've decided that we're going to stick to, and we can debate the finer points of that until the cows come home. But assuming that we're all happy with the model as it is, with lots of people at the bottom and a few people higher up, fine. Make sure that that pyramid that you sit into, that triangle that you're in, is giving you enough to to get you through the day, and to give you also enough space to look after yourself. And I do realise that I'm speaking from a place of privilege there. I'm acutely aware of that. I'm not going to sit here and say I've had the hardest life. Everybody's had struggles, everybody's had difficulties, and for some people it might not be as easy as saying, I'll just find a new job.
Yeah.
But equally, like, if we don't do that across the board, if people don't start saying, look, no, I'm not giving you any more, this is it, this is all I can give to make sure that I can look after myself, then we're just going to we continue in this spiral.
Yeah. I think the action people take in this moment is less important, if I'm getting you correctly, is less important than even asking the question of, do you just subserviently do whatever people tell you think that you have to do, or do you question that and decide for yourself what it is that you feel right about doing? Would that be a fair summarization of what you said?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's important as well to challenge structures within structures like that.
Hmm.
So the industry I work in, we recently sort of restructured a little bit, and I was brought in as part of a new team into in the company that I work in, and we sort of had to look at everything that our team was doing and or was going to be doing, and say, okay, so how do we want to do this? A lot of people were sort of like, well, it's always been done this way, and I'm like, okay, and we don't want to do it that way anymore because it sucks. Let's do it a better way because we don't have to do it like that anymore.
Right.
Like, these things aren't enshrined in some sort of tablet somewhere.
Right.
We can just change them and do them differently.
Right. Love it. Let's move on to the next question. Both of these are super important, but I want to know which one is more important for you right now in this moment, not right here in this room, but just in this time frame.
Sure.
Is it is it more important for you to be able to stand up and speak your voice and be heard? Or is it more important for you to create a platform for other people to speak their voice and for you to listen to them?
That's interesting because that is something I argue for quite strongly, in that being part of what you'd consider to be the majority, in that I'm a straight white man,
Yeah.
it is my responsibility to provide a platform to other people. I've, straight white men have had a platform for, probably a problematic amount of time.
Yeah.
It's my responsibility now to challenge the structures that are in place because they are built to support me.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. And it's really funny because I created this show partially with the thought to give people a chance to have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And the data that I'm getting from the answers that I'm being given skews way more in the direction of people answering this question of wanting to create a platform for other people to be able to speak so that they can hear them, which is really interesting to me because it was not the original concept that I thought was coming in, and
Yeah.
it may just be the demographic from which people are coming to me is this way, but it seems overly skewed even in that demographic. So it's interesting. I love the data that I'm getting. Do you feel like you fit in, or have you always felt a little different?
I've always felt a little different.
Again,
Sorry, excuse me. Sorry, calm down, dog.
that's okay. It's all good in this room. Um, I'm also interested in the data that I'm receiving of how many people answer like you do.
Yeah.
And I would love to get your feedback on why people who feel a little bit different, not saying that this is what you do, but people that feel a little bit different, try so hard to make other people fit into boxes. Because most people are pretty uncomfortable with people that are different, and they try and put us into boxes that they can understand, right?
Yeah.
Are you this person or this person? Do you vote this way or this way? Are you
Yeah.
this religious practice, this religious practice? Are you straight or you gay? Are you trans or
Yeah.
binary? Like, there's so many possible boxes that we've created, and we try and position people into those when
Yeah.
we ourselves don't fit into any of them, or we don't feel like we fit in.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea why we do that? First of all, do you believe people do that? I don't want to assume that you believe that. You can say, no, I don't think that's not my experience.
Yeah. I think we are we are by definition a complicated people. We are very varied. And I think that people try to put people into a camp to see whether they agree with them or not, because that's how our brains are geared up to understand the world. We're geared up to be like, our brains want to protect us, right? But they want to make sure that we feel safe. We understand the world. This is the view of the world that we've got. Here is your box. There you go. This is it. There's a brilliant comic on this by the Oatmeal, by the way, that is done far more eloquently than I'm about to do it, but I'm going to try. Okay. So when we receive a piece of information, it either fits in said box, and it's like, yes, this is something that makes sense to me and fits in with the way I understand the world. Or it's nonsense. Doesn't make any sense. You know, this challenges the way that I understand the world and makes me feel unsafe. Mm-hmm. So, for example, a good example is the refugee crisis in Britain at the moment. So we've got a few boats full of like dinghies, basically, of people fleeing from wherever they're fleeing from, have landed on British soil, and certain elements of our government and certain elements that wish they were part of our government have said this is a crisis and these people need to be, deported, and they need to be gotten rid of and all that sort of thing. And a lot of people, and I do understand it, they feel that, these people should be sent back because, they're a strain on our country, or they could be potentially dangerous. They could be, people that pose a risk to the country. But, and that's their box, right? That's the way they understand the world. Right. That Britain is important, and, the things that are going on at home are more important than the struggles that these people are facing. Yeah. And challenging that causes a visceral reaction. Yeah. In the same way that I believe that these people should be helped, they should be looked after, we should extend our hand. We are a rich country, and we should provide assistance where we can. Yeah. Because, I think it's less than 10,000 people have landed on the beaches. In a country of 65 million people, there's literally nothing. Like, we've got bigger small villages. Yeah. And it's like, I do feel for these people, because they're so wrapped up in the fact that they're so scared for themselves and for their family and for what they view as a threat to the country. Yep. That they almost blind themselves to the plight of these people.
So we have something very similar here in the States.
Yeah.
Clearly. And so, and it like, without siding with one side or another, what I see is that there is a lack of real leadership. Mm. Because, and some people would say in our country, well, Trump's a good leader. He stands up and goes against everybody, and he may be. In that regard, I think he probably does do some of that. But what I see is that people silo themselves in one camp or another. Yeah. And the leaders that we elect in our country, at least, to lead our country, don't do very good leading if they disagree with something their silo has done.
Yes.
Right?
I feel this so hard, because there was a brilliant example in British politics very recently, and it was a very good bit of opposition, actually. A little underhanded, but here we are. So the government proposed a particular bill, and they're getting it written in, and then the opposition proposed an amendment to the bill to prevent something bad happening. And because it was the opposition that presented it, the government had to be like, no, we're going to vote that down.
Yeah.
So rather than actually, this actually being best for everybody, they decided that we'll vote it down because it's from the opposition.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, all right, I get the point of the opposition because they made the government look bad,
Yeah.
but you haven't actually accomplished anything other than making the government look bad.
So I love what you're saying, and I feel, I mean, it seems like what's happening in Britain is the same thing that's happening here, which is the same thing that's happening probably all around the world. And so part of that makes me look at the world and say, well, the world is made up of us. Like that can't happen in America if we as individuals think differently, act differently, believe differently. We have collectively created a consciousness, so to speak,
Mm.
that is the consciousness of who we are. And I was having a conversation in this room with another stranger a while back. And what I realized around this point is that there are things in my own life that I look at. Like, I'm pretty happy with the man that I've become. I feel very comfortable in who I am.
Mm.
I feel very good about the way I show up in the world. I feel very confident in what I want for people and how what I the place that I want to show up to give people the opportunity to express themselves. And yet there is a momentum in my life on certain things that happen that I don't have the strength to stand up to that momentum, even though that I know I'm doing something wrong.
Mm.
It's not major things. I'm not robbing banks, or it's probably overeating wrong foods, or it's probably doing, not being quite
Yeah.
as loving as I could be to my wife,
Mm.
or things like that. But there's a momentum that has built up that I don't have the strength within my own silo of my own beliefs to stand up to myself.
Yeah.
And so I think the world outside of this is reflecting a world inside of me that I don't choose to see, because it's so
Yeah.
much easier to say they don't do it. What do you think about that?
I think that's very true. I think um, quite often we'll look at something and say that needs to be changed, but these are the and you justify it to yourself, don't you? You go, these are the reasons that I can't do that.
Yeah,
Here are the excuses.
yeah,
Um, and the funny thing is that when you eventually do you solve that problem, you feel good about it, don't you?
yeah,
You
yeah.
you feel good about having
Yeah,
done
of
it,
course you do. Oh, yeah.
and you get in, and for some reason I don't know what it is about I think, do you know what I think it is? I think it's the human brain protecting itself again,
Hmm.
because it goes, well, if you don't do it, you can't fail. Mm.
Yeah,
You
maybe,
can't get it wrong.
maybe. Let me we'll wind down a little bit. Do you believe people are more similar than they are different, or more different than they are similar?
I think on a base level, like on a purely sort of these are the fundamental parts of a human being.
Yeah,
I think we're more similar than we are different. But from a like a mental, like intellectual standpoint, I think we're more different than we are similar, and I think that's good,
interesting.
because the more different we are, the more we challenge each other's points of views and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
The more we grow, like you never get you never learn more about a subject. You never learn more about um, something that's really ticked you off than when somebody challenges you on it. You're like, no, no, these are the reasons. These are the reasons that you're wrong, and now I know everything about this particular thing.
yeah. I love that. I love that. We sort of hinted at this when I asked you, do you think our body talks to us? And when I just said to you around the fact that the world outside operates sort of the way my world inside operates, and you agreed that there's certain things that we know we're not doing right, but we rationalize them, and that's how the world outside works. But with all that's going on, with Me Too movement, with COVID, with civil rights, and Black Lives Matter, and I don't know if that's made its way across the ocean to you guys,
Yeah.
but do you think the world in general is trying to say something to us?
I think I think I think people are trying to say something to each other, but that the message is getting lost. I
How
think,
how come?
well, because I think everybody is upset with the state of the world, and whether let's take America for example. Trump supporters are upset with the world because everybody's out to get them, and the people that aren't Trump supporters are upset with the world because Trump's the president. But both of them are upset, but they're not upset really with each other. I think they're upset with the system that's got them to this stage.
Yeah, good, beautiful point.
I think if I was to sit down from someone from the fundamental, Christian belt of the US, we could still find things to talk about.
Yeah,
I don't have to agree with them. I don't have to. Um, I don't. They don't have to agree with me getting drunk in a field for 3 days or every year. But the point is that I can still be like, okay, but you raise your children, you feed them, you don't beat them. We all move forward as a people,
yeah,
providing you're not attacking people or making people feel uncomfortable or upset.
yeah,
Then can't we all just crack on,
yeah. Love that.
just do our best? But yeah, we're so upset with the system as it stands, in that everybody has to, as you're right, be put in a box.
Do you do you think that same world is trying to say something to you right now, personally?
Mm, no, I think I'm probably too insignificant.
You think you're what?
Insignificant.
Too insignificant. Wow. Under separate cover, I'd like to know where that statement comes from. Doesn't have to happen right now.
No, it's. I think it's a difficult thing for the human brain to realize that it doesn't matter, right? Because if I was to drop dead tomorrow, I'd like to think a lot of people would be very sad, and I'm pretty sure they would be. But you know, they'd move on, and that would be it.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm possibly a footnote in the government's records for however long they keep them for, and then that's it. I'm done.
So I would like to give you another story if I could, not because I want to change your mind, just because I want to share another perspective.
Sure.
The book that's hanging over my shoulder here, on my left
Mm-hmm.
shoulder, is the book I wrote. It's Mosaic. It's a story about a boy who lost his parents 2 years apart on the same day. And when he asked the adults where his parents are, they told him they're in a place called heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So he set out in search of the place called heaven. And the people that he met along the way are not the people that you would think he would meet. They're not the clergymen and the medicine men and women and the shamans and the priests and the swamis and the gurus. They were common, ordinary people. They were the road worker and the trash man and the blind woman and the homeless guy and our street artist and the waitress and the gardener and the juice man.
Yeah.
And when he wondered, why am I sitting with those people? Why am I sitting with them? What can they show me about heaven? He said, I'm here. Why don't I just listen to them? And when he listened to them, what he found is in every single case, the person he was with now was completely different than the person he was with. He approached because he only knew, he didn't see them the way they were. He saw them the way he was.
Yeah.
And when he had that thought of, I wonder if this has happened time and time and time and time again with me, with the people that I'm meeting, what in the world do I see? Do I see anything the way it is? Or do I see everything the way I am? And what would happen if I got myself out of the way and actually saw the world the way it was rather than the way I think it is? It's an interesting story. I won't go through the whole book with you because we don't have time nor interest. But one of the things that I want to share with you is my mom, and that's the story of my life. My mom and dad passed away 50 and 52 years ago.
Um,
They are not just a footnote in the story of life for me,
no, of course not.
right? Nor are they a footnote in the story of the lives of the people that they touched. And this is 52 years later. So maybe when I die, they will disappear. But I've spoken about them so often to so many people that I don't even think that will happen. So what if, just in this what if scenario, what if you weren't too insignificant for the world to be saying something to you right now? What would it want to say to you? What do you think it would want to say to you if you didn't think you were too insignificant?
What would the world want to say to me? Stop playing so many video games.
Stop playing.
Sorry, I'm deflecting from humor.
That's
Um,
okay. Stop playing. What did you say? Stop playing so many what?
Stop playing video games.
Okay.
As I'm deflecting with humor. Um, what would the world want to say to me? It's not something I've thought about.
So let's go with your answer. Why would it want you to if it told you to stop playing video games? What would it want you to do with your time instead of that?
Probably, as I said earlier, something creative.
Yeah.
And this is something that I know, um, or do some revision for my exam. Um, it's yeah. Again, you were talking about momentum earlier, and I've built up. I know I have, and I've built up momentum in playing video games, and I think it's because it's got a feedback loop of. I play with a friend quite often, and especially
Yeah.
in this pandemic, it's the only time I get to speak to somebody that isn't my fiance or my stepdaughter.
Yep.
Um, so I relish that time.
I'm right there. My stepson is a video game fanatic also. So, um, if you had 1 minute to say something to the world and you knew they would listen, what would you do? You have 1 minute right now. What would you say?
Just be nicer to each other. Just as humans, like we've got to stop being such dicks to each other. Like that, there's so little like on a genetic basis that differentiates us. Like the difference between somebody from Mexico and somebody from Scandinavia is like it's minute. Like there's so little difference,
Yeah.
but there's so much that connects us and so much shared joy and pain and all of this other stuff. Like just stop being dicks to each other. Just help people. Like when you see somebody fall over, help them up. Whether I mean that actually or economically or whatever it might be, like take a second, step back and think, if I was in that person's shoes, why am I doing what they're doing, or why am I in the situation that they're in? Like instead of just going with your gut reaction of, oh, they're just there because of this, like let's take a second and think about all the possible avenues that could have led that person to get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. How would people get in touch with you if they wanted to?
I'm on Twitter. It's Alex_Denny0, I think.
Okay.
That's basically it, really. I'm not particularly active on social media and stuff.
Will you send me that link or anything else that you have that would
Yeah,
allow
sure.
people to get in touch with you if they choose to?
Yeah, sure. If anybody wants to play Dungeons and Dragons, I'm well into
Okay.
that.
Okay. Be careful. I might send my stepson after you. I don't know if he's still playing that one. He might be playing other ones now. Um, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for being so open and vulnerable and honest and real from the moment you stepped in the room.
All good.
I want to thank you for sharing everything you shared. And to those of people who are listening and have listened to other shows, I want to thank you for coming. If you like the show, there's only one way anything grows. People who like something they've discovered, share it with people they like, and see if they like it too. So if you like what's going on, share this with people that you know. Uh, if any of you listening want to have a conversation, Alex didn't know that he even did until about 5 hours ago, where he said, "Yeah, I'm in for it. I'll try it." He saw a post, and here we are. So it started out as 50 conversations with 50 strangers. It's now 50 more. I'm in the second series of 50s. I can see it being thousands and thousands of conversations because I just feel super enriched by every one of them. We're talking down the line about creating some sort of documentary or series of what people would say given the chance in a room to say whatever they need to say, or what the voice of the voiceless would say. So if you're interested, contact me, and um, let's have a conversation. Is there anything you want to say last minute going out that you haven't said?
That's a lot of pressure. Uh, no, I've really enjoyed this, and I think it's rare that somebody's willing to sit and listen without wanting to um, get their own opinion across. And the more people that do that, I think the better we do as a species.
Great. I can't tell you how many people have said that. And so, if that's the case, my challenge to everybody listening is to make it a point in the course of the next month, 2 months, 3 months, to go up to someone you don't know, whether it's online or in person, and just ask them how they're doing. Not with the thought to change them or fix them or help them or correct them or guide them or teach them or any of that, just with the thought of the genuine, open heart concern of just saying to someone, "How are you? I'm here for you." Who knows? Maybe someone who's a stranger now will be someone that Alex talks about, that you can call them at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they don't say, "Can it wait?" They just say, "Where are you?" Stranger things have happened, and people meeting people in a room like this and becoming lifelong friends. So take a risk, because right now the world is a strange world. People are strange. The Doors, Jim Morrison said it. People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces seem ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven when you're strange. But the only thing that changes a stranger into a friend is a simple invitation to have a conversation and just listen to them. 5 hours ago, Alex was a stranger to me. We walk away from this place feeling like there could be a friendship here, and that he is my friend. So make people friends. Don't be strangers. And until the next stranger pops into this room, I want to thank you all for being here. Alex, again, thank you for showing up. People, thank you for coming. Remember, don't be too strange. Don't be a stranger. Ciao.